Welcome to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers for dog trainers or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
Well, you might really enjoy what Tommy Davis was telling us when we spoke with him, because we noticed that the difference, the big quintessential difference in dog training and why it's so like fractured versus something like a sport, like like a college, like that they all communicate together. They have like one kind of unified set of boundaries within variation, of course, depending on is just that community, just the ability to come together. And even I guess competition probably is actually, now that I think about it, the best example of that in the dog training world, because you have one standard, right? Like in the competition itself. And there's like, okay, well, here's a representation of this particular dog with this particular method, and here's a representation of this other dog, other method. But in the normal pet dog training world, you don't really have that sort of unified thing for people to come together and really kind of share in their ideas. An example, I know I bring this up a lot, so sorry guys. Jiu-jitsu schools, they're all different.
Always jiu-jitsu.
but it's helpful. It's so helpful because not only do you get to mix it up and test your mettle, you learn the theory, you learn everything else. And kind of like dog training, it's easy enough to watch someone do it and go mechanically, okay, you put your hand here, put your leg, do this and that. But when somebody's actively working to counter that out, it's a different world. There's so much more on your plate to figure out. And then once you get it down, and then you get it down with everybody in your gym, then you intermingle with the other gyms. There's tournaments, there's things like that. And that makes everybody sharper, because you find that one person that, like, man, his rubber guard was great, his top game was great, his whatever was great. And then you figure out the workarounds. Tommy Davis was talking about, what was he saying, Brent? He wants to establish a sort of like center, a place where people can come together.
Yeah. It's a great idea. Ultimately, he wanted to create a retreat for dog trainers.
There you go.
Right? And Tyler does IACP, which he's like, pretty much that's what Tyler already does. But he wanted a venue or a place, and stuff like this might exist already. We just don't know. We don't know.
That's a good point.
Where people train on a regular basis together, right? But not in the sports dog world. That's the thing. You see that all the time in the sports dog world with clubs, but are there pet dog training clubs?
Exactly. Why aren't there? Dude, we should start a pet dog training club.
There might be. Do you know? Are there pet dog training clubs?
No, are there? I mean, there's what is it, like camp or dog scouts or whatever?
Never heard of that.
I don't know.
There's like some weird, I don't mean weird in like a bad way, but weird as in it's unique.
Sure.
It's like a weekend camp that you go to with your dogs and you earn badges, but it's just like normal, like easy things. And
but it's like dog owners go there.
Yeah, like dog owners can go. But I know some like dog trainers that were really into it because it was a lot of fun to go to. Like you went like kayaking with your dog and you did all like the pet dog type version of the sports. Like you did an obstacle course, but it wasn't really agility. You didn't need to actually train it. And it was kind of like just that sort of thing. Yeah. And so I think if you made it into like a fun weekend camp and then like,
it'd have to be longer than a weekend. Maybe if it was like an arts camp, but for dog trainers, right? I would love it if there was like Ian Dunbar and like a Karen Pryor and like a
Karen Pryor has her farm.
Yes.
That doesn't Ian like they have their thing, but there's all these conferences that are plus, and then there's all these conferences that are balanced, but there's nothing really. That's where the thing is an R plus trainer doesn't want to go to a balanced conference because they don't want to be seen going to a balanced conference. A balanced trainer doesn't want to go to an R plus conference because they don't want to be seen going to it. Even though there's like, that's how you learn, is you step outside of your group. Like if you don't step outside of your group, you're never going to learn anything.
And you're just nepotistic the whole
time.
No,
yes. And so I wish there was a conference that wasn't labeled.
Yeah.
Like
it was just a dog training conference. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, to your point, it was like, I a lot of the R plus stuff I did watch were seminars and videos and content and
And I think the online part of it's going to help a ton. So like, Fenzi partnered with the IAABC does a Lemonade conference. We started it last year. Awesome. And it's all over the range as far as behavioral stuff, sports stuff, pet dog stuff. Like it's all over the range. There's so many speakers.
I love that.
And because it's online, I bet that would be a nice way to get more people outside of the R plus community involved in it and seeing that. So, and I know there's a few other conferences that are online because of the pandemic as well. And so definitely like those online opportunities.
I agree with you, and I like the segue because that was another thing I wanted to bring up was your online presence and how that's helped you. And this is just a question I ask everybody, and it's really more just for motivation for newer trainers online, between Fenzi and Instagram and YouTube and Consider the Dog. Do you? I mean, I'm sure you do because everybody does. Everybody gets those like YouTube trolls that want to explain to you exactly why you're wrong, and but the biggest thing that has always interested me as we've talked to a bunch of different dog trainers, some of which who were like pretty prominent online, yourself, Tyler, Michael Ellis, Tommy Davis. I wasn't surprised. Oh, and Sean O'Shea, and we haven't had him on just yet, but Jeff Gelman as well. Not so much that these people like that the pushback exists, because I mean, people push back about whatever. I see dislikes about like a baby playing with a freaking toy on a couch,
Right.
But what really amazes me is sometimes it actually gets to them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm a social media made trainer, so I will be 100% upfront with that. I wouldn't be who I am without.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's a huge valuable tool if done correctly. But that being said, my Facebook presence is very, very well thought out and controlled. So my personal Facebook is my business Facebook. Everything I say on there is meant as a business representation of me. So that means I don't share very personal things on there. And with that, I get a little bit of backlash. So I get a little bit of people saying that I'm not truthful on there, which isn't the truth at all. I am truthful on there, but I also make sure that my presence online is very positive. So I point out the good things, and this is who I am in person as well. I've worked really hard on being positive and looking at the silver lining and that sort of thing, because it makes me a happier person. So in that case, it is, but as far as my social media presence, it comes off as that I'm, hiding things here and there. And
so
like
that's
you're
not
authentic.
authentic.
Like disingenuous and like presenting.
Exactly.
Got it.
And that's not the truth at all. It's just that I don't put my bad days on there. So that being said, I also don't go on to groups or anything along those lines with the intent of criticizing others.
Of course.
And again, that's who I am in person. So if somebody's training a different way, I'm not going to be talking to my neighbor about how that's wrong. I'm going to be like, okay, I wonder why they're doing that. And if I'm genuinely curious, I'm going to go talk to that him afterwards in an open conversation, just, try to gain more ideas. So it's because of that, I feel like I don't tend to get a lot more backlash online as some other trainers do, because I do just go on there with a positive input. I, tell people they're doing awesome, amazing, because I feel like the world needs more of that. Right. And so I feel like I get a little bit more of that in return and a little bit more leeway that way, versus going on and criticizing. That being said, I also have to be super guarded about my opinions on things. And so that can get really tiring. Sometimes I do just want to post about how shitty
you're just like, fuck this and fuck that.
Oh, I can swear.
Yeah, you can totally curse. Yeah, you can
how shitty something is. But I take a very heavy PR stance on things. And most of that is because I worked for Purina for the past 6 years. And I, signed a social media thing saying that, you're
going to represent them well.
I have to represent. And that taught me really well, because it went from me having very strong opinions when I got hired to having no ability to post those opinions anymore. And so that was a really great thing for opening up my eyes and seeing how social media could be used in a different way versus, criticizing and trying to make my loud voice be heard.
That's awesome. That's an intelligent approach to social media that I think a lot of people should look into.
And in life in general, guys,
it's that same rule our parents try to teach. If you have nothing nice to say, just don't say it.
But the internet makes it so simple.
Because it shows respect, you know?
True, but the problem, the internet makes it so simple because you're just a random, it's not even your name sometimes. It's just like a random person's moniker and,
a number.
Right. And it's just so easy to just be out there.
And the thing is that now it is your name. You're going to be found for everything you said. And that's going to be somebody, and this is where it gets really weird. When I was a crossover trainer, I did recommend somebody use a bark collar on their dog on a forum a long time ago. And somebody had brought that up to one of my bosses and said, hey, look, she recommended a bark collar like 15 years ago.
That's kind of crazy though. I think that people go too far with that.
But the thing is everything you say is going to be found out, and it can come back.
Yeah.
And so I don't think people really realize that. And that was on a forum, you know, I did use my name, but like it was my first name and last initial. So even if you use a screen name, people can figure out who you are real fast. They're too good at that internet stuff.
Internet
and
stock.
So yeah, so I think that if people took more of an approach of me in 10 years looking back at this, would I be proud of what I said or not? And did I try to be a genuine good voice in the world, or was I criticizing? And so that's generally my approach with social media.
Yeah. Well, there's Go ahead. Sorry. So I was going to say, so there's a couple like general or universal truths that I've learned, or that I like to accept as truths. And, you know, to kind of answer a question of like, why is there so much hate? And like, I realize a lot of times, you might have heard this before, people criticize in areas that they feel weak, or people criticize in areas that they have weaknesses in. And so, you know, the overweight person will criticize how overweight someone else is, or the shy person will, you know, whatever your area of weakness is. And so if you take that rule, do you think that at all applies in dog training? Like
110%.
I'm sure.
I'm going to quote, because I was listening to it today, Amy Sadler's interview on Canine Paradigm a few episodes back.
Nice.
And she had this quote. I'm going to butcher it. I wanted to write it down because it was so good. It was insecurity or uncertainty is loud and confidence is quiet. That was the general idea of it.
And that's
everywhere. Look at your reactive dog, right?
Yeah.
Like your confident dog is quiet. They're not going to care. Your uncertain dog is going to be loud and obnoxious. The online trainer who is loud and obnoxious, I'm going to say you're not a confident trainer at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the same thing. It's like that. Like I couldn't have, you know, I think we couldn't, as professionals, been doing this for a while. Like, I don't think we could ever have this conversation in our younger versions of ourselves.
Oh, heck no. Me on that forum 15 years ago? No, I knew everything in my 20s. I knew everything.
Isn't it funny how that works?
Oh my God. I can't believe I wasn't fired from every single job I had. I was so obnoxious. I knew everything.
Well, and it's passion, right? It's passion.
It was a lot of passion.
Passion mixed with insecurity, mixed with you know, imposter syndrome, mixed with all these things. And a lot of it is like the people who put in the work every single day. Going back to that quote, it's like people who work out and put in a lot of effort into something, they don't judge people's bodies.
No.
You know why though?
Because they respect the process.
Right.
And they understand it.
They know how hard it is, and how easy it is to get wrong, and how easy it is to get sidetracked, and for other things to go sideways, like outside of your control or whatever the case. I think for that reason, it's fast. So, but see, this is what we're talking about right now. This is exactly why I'm not surprised that people say negative things. I'm surprised that the trainers actually take it to heart. That's what amazing. And I understand sometimes
because of
it's
insecurity also.
I
think it's just a constant
hits
barrage.
On that right day, it hurts. Yeah. I mean, I get you on that. It's taken a lot of me to like be able to step back and go, okay, why is this bothering me today when it wouldn't have bothered me another day? And I just had somebody made a comment about, you know, my breeding choice on this last litter. And it was a hard day for me because I had something else happen on that day. And I was questioning the litter myself, you know, at that moment. And then they said that, I was like, oh, well, crap. Like, and it hurt and it hit hard. And so it just takes that one bad day again and judgment and quick fingers. I mean, you don't know how many Facebook posts I post, you know, I typed up and then
delete.
delete.
It's like those letters that you're not supposed to send, you just write them out.
But sometimes just typing it out and then just erasing it makes you feel a lot better. And but then reading it back, you're like, wow, that's a horrible thing to say. But yeah, I think that's also the way, like in the monitoring world, why a lot of the trainers are able to collaborate so well. At least the ones I've worked with, everybody in the monitoring community that I've worked with has been just fantastic and welcoming to my weird training style. And I think it's because they know how hard it is and they're walking that journey too. And they're trying to figure out ways to make it work for their dog. And they're just happy somebody's out there doing it. And so that's, you know, I think it's coming back to the thing of just go out there and do it and work with your dog and take it for a grain of salt when somebody else is struggling or you think that they're not doing it the right way, that you're not in their shoes and you have no idea.
Can I ask you then in a more practical sense? So as an example, if Sean O'Shea or Jeff Gelman, pretty much everybody I ask this, like if somebody's, being like a hater or a troll, whatever online, they're like, I just block them. Obviously you're not going to respond, but I would think that that's mostly a given. But do you just like block people and just not even deal with
a lot of things off of?
Okay.
So the way I feel, like, while I say that my Facebook is my business page, it's not technically my business page, and it is my page. And so I had a hard time with the pandemic when it first started, and Black Lives Matter, and where lines were getting blurred between Black Lives Matter is a human rights thing, but the lines were getting blurred between whether I should be posting my own opinions on my own Facebook page or not, because I have treated it like a business page in the past. What are those lines? And so I am very strong on Black Lives Matter, and I wanted to support as much as I could. And I had a giant backlash from that.
Because you did not, or because you did? Because you did post, or?
Because I did post, yeah.
Okay.
And so in that moment, it's my page. I deleted comments that were rude and condescending and just hate, not kind. Yeah, just not kind things. Because it's my personal page. And so it does get really blurry really fast. That being said, if somebody posts about, I don't get a lot of criticism on my dog training, and I don't know if that's because I'm so censored about what I post versus not, or I don't invite that discussion a lot. I thought about this all day yesterday. It was just that thing that was stuck in my brain about why I don't get a lot of comments on my training. And it just might be that I'm not a big no name as far as that goes. So I don't know, but if I do see it, I do try to engage in the discussions a little bit more, or I'll just ignore it. But I tend to not delete it if it's dog training stuff.
Okay.
Nice.
Even if it's like a little on the negative side. I'm just asking for, to kind of give people like newer trainers an idea, because I think a big barrier to entry for people who want to make content, even though they should, because clearly content has the power to absolutely transform your career.
Right.
But they're nervous about, is it going to look good? And ultimately it's a judgment and in some form or another of like, what are people going to say? Is it going to be good enough? Is it going to,
So I will say everything I post, I think about what are the things people could say about this. And I prepare myself that way. I had posted a video. This was the last one I had that I had to do some damage control on. We'll just call it damage control, right?
Okay.
I posted a jump rope promo video for Purina, and I had jumped my dogs on concrete with no padding, and the dogs were like, it's not a good thing, but I had weighed the risk, right? So I knew that my dogs are proficient in this behavior. I knew literally they're going to be jumping 2 times, 3 times max. And I knew that they're just jumping straight up and down. So there's no chance of slipping. So I rate the risk versus benefit, thought it would be fine, did the video quick, posted up. And then some comments were made about jumping the dog on concrete. And so I knew that was a possibility, but I didn't think I weighed the risk in my opinion. But that being said, because it was tied to the Purina name, we opted to take it down and put up one where the dogs were jumping on padding instead. And so while I do think about that, I do try to put disclaimers on my post beforehand if I do think that there will be a comment made, particularly about, a puppy jumping off of a pedestal or something along those lines. I'll say something about the soft padded floor. So I'll try to work those disclaimers into the description as much as I can and head them off before they happen. But I think looking at your content with a critical eye and looking for the holes is a really good way to help yourself put better content out there overall.
Like stronger, like bulletproof content.
Not only that, but because you're looking at it from a critical eye, then you're going to have a more well-rounded version of what you're putting out there versus just going, yep, this is great content. And what I'm saying is correct.
And to get it out there.